Welcome to Matters of DeCorum. I'm Scott Corum. This is what matters to me. Quick technical note, new microphone arrangement again. I got a lavalier. So this microphone should give me different, hopefully better voice quality. Let me know what you think when you see the video. I have been running a lot of games lately. Three is a lot for these days. On Tuesday nights, I run a Dungeons & Dragons demonstration game at a local store at Del Amo Fashion Center called The Game Chest. If you are local, drop by and see me. I had 10 people at my table Tuesday night. So 6 to 9, 3 hours. We went until 10 o'clock. It was 10 people in a tactical combat. It was glorious, but it was exhausting. Every other week I run the game for my patrons on Discord. If you want to be one of my patrons, you can get in on that, or at least get access to the Discord feed. And then on Wednesday nights I have my infamous Wednesday night games. We do take turns in the Warriors of Wednesday. I'm not always running the games. Sometimes other folks take a turn. I'm running something at the moment, and I need to get the story out. I'm recording this not on the day before the video comes out, but the day after I ran this game, because I really want to make sure I get it while it's all fresh in my mind. There's a part of my mind that is coming back online, and running the games that I'm running the number of games that I'm running, and with the number of people involved and putting stress on certain parts of my brain, that part of my mind is coming back, a part that I like to call the creative engine. I do not consciously make all of the decisions necessary when I am running a game, particularly when I am improvising, which is how I prefer to run games. My GMing is very improvisational. I have a general idea of what the story is and where things are going, and there are events I want to see happen, but I'm not married to them. What I like to do is I start things with a scenario. Something happens, suddenly a shot rings out, the party responds to that, and based on their response, I let the living world in my mind react. To this end, I'm sometimes surprised by what comes out of my mouth, because consciously I'm guiding the conversation and keeping track of rules and deciding what I want to see happen in the way of challenges, but what is happening as a result in the world is often just a snap pop in the back of my head that oh, well, then this would happen, and it jumps out. I've written a number of books that way. That's how my creative process generally starts up. The current Wednesday night game, I am running a cyberpunk-esque game in the victory system. It is 2030. All the oil is more or less gone. There are elements of magic and psionics in the background, but they are secretive. One of the players is playing a magic user, but he can't let anyone know because he would be persecuted for his use of magic. Max is playing the magic-using ambulance driver. My son Andrew is playing a sentient medical nanoswarm, a nano colony of nanorobots dedicated to medicine and biology. That normally takes the form of the most nondescript human being you've ever seen. Josh is playing Decaf, our hacker, who got burned out at some point in the past and is not entirely sure why, because parts of his brain were actually burned out. He had to have parts of his body cybernetically replaced as a result. Wayne is playing a Stitch, our scrapper, a guy who goes out and takes apart old technology, sometimes new technology, and makes a living by scavenging. Al is playing our cop. I love Al. I love all these guys, don't get me wrong. Al's cop, he wanted to play a Dirty Harry-esque kind of dirty cop, angry cop. He's got a really, really high skill in Streetwise, and his combat skills are pretty good, and he's all right at investigating, but he's got some lacks. We'll get to that. The game started with an Italian restaurant blowing up not far from where the characters are having coffee. This leads to the explosion being used to hide a bank robbery going on a couple blocks away, and they followed this through. One thing leads to another. One thing leads to another. Over 4 sessions, we go from an exploding Italian restaurant to the United States is at war with Sweden, and it is entirely the character's fault. Mostly Al's, but it got spread around a little bit. And after the game, I had to sit and go, in 4 sessions, did we go from a grim and gritty, really, really poorly written police procedural to the United States is at war with Sweden? And yes, we did. The interesting background group in this game, I'm not going to call them a villain group because it has not yet been established that they are actually the bad guys, is a organization called the Nexiel Foundation. I created this based on its appearance in the book The Voyage of the Space Beagle by A.E. Van Vogt, which is an amazing read, and if you have an opportunity and want to pick up some sci-fi you haven't picked up before, The Voyage of the Space Beagle, A.E. Van Vogt. And the Nexiel Institute is basically a organization dedicated to the higher arts of turning learning and how not only the science of learning, but how to connect other sciences through interdisciplinary disciplines is a unifying discipline. It is effectively to science what Jeet Kune Do is to the martial arts. It allows you to take what you need out of all of them and combine them into more effective, streamlined, efficient sciences. And the hero of The Voyage of the Space Beagle is the chief scientist of this institute on a ship called the Space Beagle, and eventually has to use the teaching techniques and other techniques that he has picked up, because learning is a part of the science, to take over the ship for humanity's own good. I liked the aspect of that would allow a errant Nexialist to turn that around and do things for the wrong reasons. I'm not saying that's what's happening in the game. I'm saying that I'm fascinated by the concept. The foiled bank robbery from the first adventure was performed by a professor at UCLA, geology. It's 2030, so no one you know. And he's never done anything like this before. And when he was eventually interviewed, he wasn't exactly sure why he'd done it and couldn't explain how he had done everything he had. Over the course of many investigations, they discovered that there are other crimes like this committed by faculty and students at UCLA. Not the best or the brightest, but people who suddenly got very bright ideas about what they could actually accomplish and turned those ideas towards crime. Investigating UCLA, there is a new department going in. There's a Department of Nexialism and a new building being built on the UCLA campus, and the group is go in to investigate the geology professor's office, find a GTA heist room in there. It's just ridiculous, overly dramatic, and not terribly effective, but it worked for what it was. And they meet the head of the new Department of Nexialism at UCLA, a one Hagen Zwei. They hate him. He's friendly, he's genial, he's sweet. He's from Sweden. He's directly from he's from Germany, but he's directly from Sweden because the Nexial Institute is doing outreach and building these departments in universities across the world. They also discover that he is running a program in there's 2 offices done in his department so far. His office and a computer lab. The computer lab is full of really, really expensive equipment, doing a lot of research, and a robot that is doing martial arts. Andrew and the nanomorph go in and decide to mess with it, and while the robot punches him. Andrew's a nanomorph. He's composed of millions of tiny little nanomachines, so he becomes insubstantial effectively and allows the punch to go straight through him without affecting him. The computer kicks up, goes into a hyperdrive, all the fans kick up, and after a moment the robot punches him again and punches him despite the fact that he is a nanomorph. They realize it is learning things from them and leave. The hacker, Decaf, tries to screw with this program by throwing in some martial arts maneuvers into its database that can't possibly work. They're from movies, and it learns them. They figure, we're going to not deal with this. This is over our head, and walk away. But they're pretty sure that Mr. Zwei has something to do with the geology professor's tendency to commit crimes. Alice Kopp has no evidence of this. So far, Hagen Zwei has engaged in a friendly conversation which gave Max's character a bonus to his medicine skill for 48 hours, and he's doing funny things with robots and computers. None of it is illegal. The geology professor, turns out, had a backup plan. He had bombs planted all over Los Angeles, and he had spent 48 hours driving as many places as he could in Los Angeles so that the GPS signal on his phone would not give anyone a clear indication of where he had been, so that the bombs that he had planted would be harder to find. And the geology professors who had access to some of the demolitions charges that the school uses for geology. And if he's not released in 6 hours, the bombs are going to start going off. Now, he released that as a scheduled YouTube video. The party works out the most likely places the bombs are. It takes a while. That they don't have a lot of time by the time they're done with that. And it was one of the best nights of gaming I've had in a long time when they split up to go defuse the bombs. 2 of those characters kind of knew how to defuse bombs. The rest of them didn't have any points in demolitions. They ended up having to call other characters or use special abilities or burn a lot of risk to get the bombs defused. It was tense. It was stressful. Alice Kopp glued himself to one of the bombs while defusing it. That was awesome. They've got no proof. They did this on the download. They're not getting paid for this or anything. They had to break some laws in order to defuse the bombs. They didn't go to the cops or anything. They did it all on their own. But in the course of this, one of the bombs was planted close to Los Angeles International, LAX, which was the one that Andrew's character was handling. Andrew's character, not around long. He's been in an intelligence in existence for about 2 years, having written himself as a neural net among the nanomachines, and did not understand all the ramifications of calling bomb disposal to come pick up the bomb he had defused in the Sepulveda underpass that goes under the runways at LAX. And realized even less what happened when the bomb disposal crew failed their role to correctly get the bomb out of there, and it detonated. It was in the chest when it detonated, so it was contained and didn't hurt anyone. But now you've got an explosion at LAX, and FBI and police and all sorts of folks close off that underpass, and the alert stage gets heightened in Los Angeles. This becomes important. Al's character goes to the police with what he's got, which is nothing, and in the process assaults the geology professor while trying to get some information out of him. Actually, Max's character really wanted to talk to him and felt he could get through to him because he had a higher psychology skill than Al's character did, and asked Al to make it necessary for a doctor to go see him. There were already doctors attending him. He'd been injured in the bank robbery. So this wasn't likely to work, but Al assaulted the doctor and almost got put on 48 hours administrative leave. The police chief told him, you better come back with something. You better come back with something better than the devil made him do it. Because this guy's going down. He's going down for a long time. Al, wanting the best justice, thinks that there's a mastermind in the middle of the spider web. They go after the mastermind. How would you do it? There's a guy, he's a department head, he's well respected, they've done research on him, he's a master swordsman from the University of Heidelberg, used to work security, he's written books on any number of subjects, he's smart, he's athletic, he's fast, he's not all that old for someone in his position. He started with the Nextfield Institute working security, and now he's their outreach to Los Angeles. People that he talks to are suddenly better at things that they all may have known, but now they know more. For a little while, temporary competence. He's training a robot to use martial arts, and it can learn esoteric martial arts. It can do special cinematic, impossible things with the martial arts. That's what they've got. What do you do? Maybe not this. So, Max's character, having really high skills in a lot of medicine and biology and whatnot, like the equivalent of 4 or 5 PhDs, applies to UCLA. He wants to get a job there. He does not roll very well, and they roll very well to put him into a queue of people who are on their hiring list. Andrew critically succeeds writing his resume. He gets a job, and the UCLA critically fails all of their bureaucratic attempts to make things take a little bit longer. He's getting a job the next day. Max loses it because the 2-year-old nanomorph AI with no actual background just got the job that the guy with 4 PhDs couldn't get straight away. The hacker constructs a background for Andrew's character so he can actually get the job. Wayne's character gets a job in maintenance. Al's character tries to get a job in security and gets bounced because he's still on the police force, and the chief calls him and asks him if he wants to stay on administrative leave forever. So that didn't work out. And Josh's character, the hacker, hacks into UCLA systems and leaves his phone number as a consultant for computer problems, but he glitches their search algorithm so that his name always comes up first. Rolled really well. I thought that was amazingly clever. So, to combat this great evil and see what they can find out, they all got jobs. Andrew's character is absorbed in the fact he's got jobs. He's got a job, and housing assistance helps him, and so he's got mortgage, and he's got a salary, and he's got debt. You know, when did Pinocchio become a real boy? When he got debt. This leaves Al's character more or less to his own devices to see what he can find out from Mr. Zwei. Waits until Mr. Zwei is in class and goes to get into his office. Confronts the security guard. Uses a shock baton on the security guard. Just, hi, holds out a hand to shake him and then hits him with his shock baton. Security guard critically fails his role to resist and goes into cardiac arrest. Al's character calls Andrew's character, who doesn't have an internal communicator. He's got a cell phone, but he's teaching classes at the moment because it's time for class to be in session. So Andrew's character tells the class to wait for a minute and really quickly talks Al through doing CPR. Guard comes back around, Al stuns him again and handcuffs him in a closet. We're doing well so far. Al gets into Zvai's office, which is where most of the computer nexuses are, a bunch of books that Zvai has written on many topics, and realizes what the computer is doing is learning martial arts, all the martial arts, a project called Anthrokinetics. Gets into the private files because he's in an office that was locked, so there was no security on the computer at the time. So I was just going to come right back. And there's email exchanges between Zvai and the Institute in Sweden. The project's going along swimmingly. I've got some advances very recently, and everything should be fine. I'm looking forward to completing my project well ahead of schedule. None of this is illegal. Al breaks into the basement and finds out there's a whole bunch of nano manufacturing machines down there. Brand new, cutting edge, just off the printing presses 48 hours ago. No one has yet checked to see if those are illegal, and there might be some illegalities to them, but... And then, well, Al doesn't know what to do at that point. His cop senses are going, well, there's nothing illegal here. How do I bust this guy? He's not doing anything wrong. So Wayne's character plugs a Cat5 cable into a power outlet and frats one of the servers, causing the college to have to call Josh's character in. So Josh's character goes to examine the stuff that Al couldn't figure out in Zvai's office. Discovers that the computer has a super advanced, shouldn't even be possible right now, quantum entanglement router, so it is communicating instantaneously with another system someplace else. I'm not sure where. No way to trace it. They said, okay, screw it. Josh's character has used a data spike to do this data intrusion, like the RoboCop thing. He's got a 6-inch long spike that he actually has to jam into a system to make physical connections. So they've now left a hole in this very expensive computer system. And Josh, okay, fuck it, I'm prying it. Causes the system to overclock itself until it dies. A much more advanced robot from the next room activates, stops doing katas, and comes in to beat them up. Speeds bags Al's character right in the groin, takes him down. Wayne's character, who has been on the way because he had to take care of some things in maintenance, comes in and he and Josh attack the thing. They do not manage to hurt it, but it fails to dodge. It is... What this thing is, Zvai found the nanoparticles off of Andrew's character from the first time the robot attacked him and would successfully hit him. So he reverse engineered them, bought the nanofabricators in the basement, and produced his own nanomorph. It doesn't have the software because all the nanomachines off of Andrew denatured when they got separated from him for long enough, but the system for running the martial arts programs was perfectly adequate to network into the nanomorphs and turn it into a secondary combat-oriented liquid metal fighting machine. It doesn't like the fact that it is outnumbered. It has no real-world experience at this point in time. It is failing its dodge rolls, which are ridiculously high. I'm just rolling really bad, and it leaves. It dives through the hole in the computer. It's a nanomorph, so it just turns into a stream of liquid through the hole that Josh had made, contacts it uses the last of its own power to fire up the quantum entanglement router and goes somewhere. The AI is gone. Wayne's character urinates into the hole just to make sure that whatever's in there still is properly broken. classes end, Andrew's character shows up and gets what they can out of it. Illegal stuff has happened to this office, but the party has done it all. Just to make sure that everything is as taken care of as they can manage, Decaf goes into the next room with the rest of the computers that were conducting the research and overclocks all of them, just fries the whole lot dead. Everyone goes home. Al's character struggling with, well, okay, I still haven't found anything illegal. What can I do? What can I bust this guy for? How do I prove he was responsible for that bank robbery where someone died? Al gets a new phone. His boss calls him into the office and shows him a composite sketch of himself, saying some guard at UCLA was assaulted. Have you seen this man? If you do, find him and make him stop whatever he's doing. And that night, the bank that was robbed in the first session gets data attacked. Gets a data attack of tremendous magnitude, but Decaf, seeing the system monitors on this, notices the firewall wasn't attacked like you would attack it as a hacker. In the system, it was punched down, as though by some martial arts attack. They correctly surmise this is the artificial intelligence that they chased out of the lab. Because the bank was completely compromised, its data is completely gone, it can't hold anymore, all of the physical, the bank doesn't exist as an entity, that the materials in that bank have to get moved someplace else. Early on, they did a quick check to see what could possibly be in the bank, in the safe deposit boxes, to make it worth that. There are a number of land deeds being held by a probate office before they're auctioned off. Those deeds cover a lot of land around Palos Verdes area and out into the ocean a little bit, and have at least 4 military silos that are not yet entirely decommissioned but have already been sold off. So the property is up for grabs and the silos with them. Although when those properties get sold, there will probably be a decommission effort. But whoever holds the deeds has access to at least the locations of the silos and can probably access whatever is still left in them. There's probably military hardware, there may be missiles. The group figures this is the play, that they hit the bank so hard that they've got to move those things, and they're going to get the deeds while the convoy is moving, is leaving from a bank next to Dockweiler Beach and going to the federal building on Wilshire Boulevard, a mile from UCLA. Then, news reports hit of $250 million worth of supercomputer equipment in a department at UCLA has been vandalized and destroyed. This stuff was owned by the Nexiel Institute in Sweden. They're sending out an investigation team. The group is already terrified of one individual from the Nexiel Institute. They don't want to fight Zwei because they're pretty sure he's been learning martial arts from the robot, and he can probably beat them all with one hand stapled to the ceiling. So, a team of these guys coming out from Sweden to do an investigation. Oh, that's got to be it. That's their play. They're gonna hit the convoy. We got to stop them. The plane is flying under diplomatic immunity from the Swedish government, or under the auspices of the Swedish government. So, that plane is an entity of the Swedish government as it flies. It is equivalent to an ambassadorial jet, because it was more or less an ambassadorial jet. Decaf hacks into the TSA, not easy, and confuses the passport information and clearances for the people on the jet. that was difficult, but he's got ridiculous numbers, and he stacked as much stuff as he could, and he made the roll, and it was great. So that was going to delay them. That was absolutely a delay. Stitch goes to a 7-Eleven and buys a burner phone and calls in a terrorist threat about the plane. That plane contains terrorists, and they're coming here to commit terrorism. That's a pretty good roll, and that's, that is, did I mention earlier that LAX was already on heightened security? Dan Andrews' character, not to be outdone, his character is self-actualized. He was an experiment by a group called the Parasol Corporation, my parody of the Umbrella Corporation from the Resident Evil games. They are a massive multinational mega conglomerate that does not care about international laws or anything, but he knows that the lab where he was created no longer exists. When he escaped from it, they burned it to the ground and slagged the remains. That's kind of how they do things. So he made an anonymous YouTube post of himself saying, this is the project number and it's on board this plane. It called the Parasol Corporation out by name. A few hours later, Al's character and every other police officer in Los Angeles gets a message to report to station. It is a very high priority message. Al's character dresses in his riot gear and shows up. Everyone's in riot gear. Police chief briefs them. This is not public knowledge yet and cannot be public knowledge. The United States has just gone to war with Sweden. What happened? Well, an ambassadorial plane, a private jet with diplomatic immunity from Sweden, got held up at LAX on its private tarmac for rechecking of all of its certification a few times because their passport information got scrambled. While they were on the tarmac, they were surrounded by FBI, TSA, a few military vehicles because there was a credible terrorist threat. Even though it was an anonymous terrorist threat, because the heightened level of security, it was upgraded to credible because no one knew. And then while all of these vehicles were sitting in the middle of the tarmac, an orbital weapon hit the plane and destroyed everything and about 30% of the tarmacs at LAX. This is considered an attack on American soil against individuals who are representing the government of Sweden. Whatever pull the Nexial Institute has, it's pretty strong. War is declared. It is starting off slow. It hasn't gone public yet. It's going to go public in a few hours. The police chief is expecting rioting because Los Angeles is going to be one of the primary targets, and the police are having to pull back to the stations and cover the station houses. It's going to get ugly. Al's character in the middle of the briefing room. Well, what's going to happen about the protection for the convoy going from the bank to the federal building? Police chief is surprised. Al's character knows about this, but he was involved in in stopping the bank heist, so it's like, we don't have time for that. That's not a thing anymore. We've just gone to war. We're going to have rioting across the city. Not something that we can take care of. Al's character, in the middle of the briefing, sir, there's information about nuclear weapons in that bank. We need to cover it. Chief takes him aside into his office. In the meantime, in the briefing room, you have individual cops. Baby, I'm sorry, you got to get out of town. I heard something about we're going to war and there's going to be nukes and you got to get out or they're going to nuke everyone. Because, of course, not every person in that room is going to do that, but a few of them are. Just takes a few, and it gets out. We're going to war. Los Angeles is going to get nuked. They're going to nuke Los Angeles. Los Angeles is about to, the rumor mill spreads, the game of telephone happens, all people are hearing is Los Angeles and nukes, and it just keeps getting worse. Outside the station, the riot has already started. It's just the fuse has been lit. Police chief demands to know how Al's character knows about the documents, because that was never introduced into the actual information that the police were aware of. The police chief has only just been made aware of it, and Al's character has no reason to know that. They had to hack a few systems that shouldn't have been hacked in order to get that information. Al's character lies and says he hacked it. The police chief laughs at him. A riot starts down the hall. Police chief fires Al's character straight off. It's like, he pulls a shotgun and starts loading beanbag rounds so he can quell the riot in his own ready room. Tells Al's character he's fired, leave your badge, get out of here, whatever's going on, I don't know who you are. Don't let me see you again. Al's character gets the hell out, and outside the police station, World War III is starting. That's where we ended the session. Bank robbery to World War III in 4 sessions. Could not have predicted it, kind of amazed that it did, and I could not be happier because that is exactly the kind of thing I like to see in my games. I like to see bad situations get worse, because that's when you see a character at their best, is how they handle a bad situation going worse. You also see a character at their best after they've made a bad situation go from bad to worse. And that was... There's this thing player characters do, whether they know they're doing it or not. It's like, oh, you took care of this problem? I can also take care of this problem. Oh, you two guys took care of this problem? I also can take care of this problem. Oh, you shot the guy? I'm going to shoot the guy 2 more times. Oh, I'm pulling out my shotgun. I'm going to shotgun the guy. You got a 5-pound hammer to hit this guy with? Okay, I'm also going to hit him, but with my 10-pound hammer. Oh, I'm just going to drop this piano on him. And often that ends up being just a dead bad guy. What I like to do is take that tendency. It is possible to do the right thing too hard. It is possible to do an action that is calculated to be subtle and gently affect events, and accelerate it to the part where it accelerates events out of the character's control. And that is what happened here. And I couldn't be happier. It's exactly the kind of thing that makes a game. It adds that tension. It adds that. When a character looks at everything they can do and calculates the maximum possible effect they can have, that happens all the time. But when the player looks down at that and goes, oh, wait, should I? That moment of hesitation, that moment of thought, that moment of self-judgment, that's where the character is defined. It's easy to make a character that can kill gods. I mean, you can pump your numbers and get your abilities, and it's not a hard thing to get abilities ridiculous, especially in the victory system. There's all kinds of stuff just for being able to do everything more effectively. But do you want to? Is this the time that you want to pull out that 50mm cannon that you've got concealed in your hand and point blank that guy? Or do you want to buy him a sandwich? To this moment in the game, the player characters have no evidence, none, that the person they are sure is the campaign villain is the campaign villain. He has done nothing illegal that they can determine. He has done nothing actionable by the law enforcement. They've asked themselves a couple of times, can't we just whack this guy? And I'm not telling them they can't, but they haven't. And if they do, there may be consequences. I'm calling this campaign the Cyberpunk Consequences campaign because that is what is happening. This is a game entirely of what happens when you take the actions you most think you need to do, but you're not entirely sure and you don't have any proof. What consequences can come from actions taken too hastily or too hard? And it is working out my creative engine to a tremendous extent, and everyone in my other games is enjoying the benefits of me being able to think a little bit faster and a little bit harder, and being able to generate events and consequences as they are caused. They made America go to war with Sweden. I'm sorry, there's nothing better than that. Right? They were considering what's going to happen. Oh no, some Swedish guy in some office someplace is going to flick a switch and all the furniture from IKEA is just going to break apart. Our infrastructure is done. And I'm thinking about it. Thank you very much for following along on this particular game story and ramble. If you liked the video, give me a thumbs up. If you didn't like the video, give me a thumbs down. Feedback is feedback. Tell me what you think about the new microphone, how it's working out. There was a lot more background noise outside today, so if any of that came through and is an issue, then I might have to go to another recording system, but I kind of like this so far. If you have your own gaming stories or comments about this gaming story or how you think you would have handled some of these situations, go ahead and leave me a comment. You'll love leaving me a comment. I'll love getting one. If you haven't subscribed to my videos, why not? They're awesome. If you would like to subscribe to my videos, when you hit that subscribe button, go ahead and hit the little bell notification next to the subscribe button so that you get notified as soon as my videos come out. If you'd like to contribute a little bit more, I invite you to hit me at my Patreon page, www.patreon.com/ScottCorum, and consider donating. Absolutely anything helps and allows me to make better videos more often. In the meantime, thank you very much for watching. I'm Scott Corum. This is what has mattered to me, and I will talk to you next time on the next Matters of DeCorum.